Welcome everyone today to our What's New in ASCENT InfraWorks 2021 Fundamentals Guide with our presenter, Jeff Morris. Jeff, the floor is yours.
As Corinne said, my name is Jeff Morris. I'm a learning content developer for ASCENT. And in my portfolio is basically the infrastructure suites, which includes InfraWorks, obviously Civil 3D, which is one of my biggest challenges, Map 3D, and I also have Navisworks and BIM 360. BIM 360, I collaborate with our Revit content developer. For BIM 360 really encompasses both. And as Autodesk progresses with their various products, you're going to start seeing more and more of these products merging and interlapping. So InfraWorks is a nice example of this, where we can use InfraWorks for both Revit and for bridge design, as well as Civil 3D. And so what we're going to be looking at today is our new InfraWorks 2021 Fundamentals Guide. And we'll be looking at the new format that we've incorporated, where we're going to combine both the conceptual tools and the engineering tools. We're going to be looking at the course outline. We're going to be looking at the data set that I've modified somewhat from the previous 2020 data set. And finally, we're going to be wrapping up with the presentation and demonstration of the InfraWorks program. For those of you that haven't seen InfraWorks yet, this might be quite interesting to you. And for the existing InfraWorks users, looking at how the data set has changed from 2020 to 2021. So we have two courses. In 2020, we had two courses. We had the Autodesk InfraWorks 2020 Fundamentals for Conceptual Design and Visualization. That's quite a mouthful. And then we also had the Autodesk InfraWorks 2020 Engineering Design. Well, what we've done is we've combined both of those courses into one course, which is your Autodesk InfraWorks 2021 Fundamentals course, which it hasn't yet been released, but it will be released very shortly. So these were our two previous courses. And as I said, we brought them into one course, Autodesk InfraWorks 2021 Fundamentals. Why did we merge these two courses into one? Well, InfraWorks is a curious program. As you'll see later on, it was always a little bit outside of the fold of the general Autodesk programs. And when it was introduced, there was the InfraWorks, InfraWorks Lite, InfraWorks 360. It had very, very strange names. And at one point, there was the InfraWorks 360 base program, and then there were three separate modules for road design, bridge design, and waterways. And therefore, we had one course for just the core product, and the other course was for these three add-on products that had to be purchased separately. Now that all these modules are into one InfraWorks program, there's no longer any need to have two separate courses. Therefore, we brought them all into one. And the course name, the Fundamentals course name, also falls in line with our other courses that ASCENT offers, such as the Fundamentals for Civil 3D, Fundamentals for Revit, etc. We have the changes within InfraWorks 2021 is a major interface change. So in the previous versions, this was the start screen. The new start screen falls much in line with the Civil 3D and AutoCAD start screens in 2021, as well as it's quite similar to the Revit start screen of 2020 and 2021. As I said, the InfraWorks program was always a little odd in that it had a completely different user interface. It had these in-canvas tools, which was completely foreign to any other Autodesk products. It was really quite neat how they worked, but it was just always a little bit different. And one thing that Autodesk is trying to do is to get their interfaces all in line so that if you know one product, the other products will seem much more intuitive. Therefore, in the InfraWorks 2021 and InfraWorks 2020, I should say that as well, they've introduced these ribbons, these tabs, these panels, and these expanded panels, very similar to, again, your Revit, your AutoCAD, your Map 3D, and your Civil 3D. Everything is a little bit more intuitive. The keyboard shortcuts are very straightforward, and we have intuitive tooltips as well. And finally, in the previous InfraWorks version, we had this light colored theme. With 2021, they've introduced a dark theme. So this was the prior to InfraWorks 2020 interface with these in-canvas tools. Everything looked very different. And this is the 2021 version with the dark theme, with the tabs, the panels, the tooltips, etc. So just to reiterate, this was the 2020, and this is the 2021 interface. It was really quite shocking when it first came out, but now that I'm used to it and having worked with Civil 3D so much, I do find it much more intuitive and rather pleasing, actually. So since we had two separate courses, we had to merge the chapters from the two courses into one. And what we're focusing on is a logical workflow, either for road design or land development, the way the chapters are outlined. And I must also point out that in the content development, we're focusing more on learning rather than proper engineering principles as we lay out the roads, the tunnels, the bridges, etc. So the chapters, we start off with navigating the user interface so that people will get used to the various bits and pieces of the components of the user interface. And then we get into connecting to data sources. This is pertinent to our GIS friends that are on board, where we can really connect to any GIS data source. And this also incorporates the model builder that's within InfraWorks. Then we get into stylizing the data sources. So as this data comes in, we can stylize it, and very similar to the Civil 3D styles for different visual appearances. And then we get into roadways, which is one of the bigger chapters. And we talked both about planning roads and component roads. Now the planning, this is also a little bit confusing. In the previous versions, the planning roads were known as conceptual roads, and the component roads were known as design roads, I believe. And then at one point we had conceptual and component roads, and that of course led to all sorts of confusion. So now we have planning roads and component roads, and we cover both in Chapter 4. In Chapter 5, we introduce waterways, ponds, rivers, and how to create drainage on component roads. And in Chapter 6, we kind of come back to the roadways and we put in bridges. We also put in tunnels and also railways. Now there's a little bit of a disconnect there, and there was a little bit of a quandary. Do I put the waterways in first and then put the roadways in? But then I can't put the drainage in. So what I decided to do was to put the road first, then the waterways, and then I can finally get to the bridge to obviously cover a waterway. Chapter 7 is one of the biggest chapters. That's where we add more model details. And that's also one of the funnest chapters as well, as you'll see later on in our presentation. There's the city furniture, a very big selection of so-called city furniture that we can add to the models. And it is here where we'll also add 2 Revit models. So with Revit, there is an intuitive interface between the bridge design going into Revit. But what I'm doing in Chapter 7 is I'm also bringing in architectural models of Revit to visualize them in InfraWorks. Then we get into analyzing the model. This is quite interesting for GIS users, where we can do some really neat analysis on the data sources that come in to visualize these GIS databases in quite a stunning way. Finally, we want to communicate the design to stakeholders, where we get into various videos, storyboards, and also still shots. We have 3 appendices. One is for analyzing the component roads. That is for our site distances, our traffic flow analysis, our vehicle analysis. We get into point cloud modeling, where we bring in a point cloud. And InfraWorks will look for a variety of different aspects of the point clouds and automate what these different aspects of the point cloud are. For example, are they stop signs? Are they trees? Are they vegetation? And we can quickly swap out the point cloud for this city furniture. And finally, we look at what a GIS data source is to start studying what different components we can bring into InfraWorks. So compared to the 2020 courses, I introduced new roads, bridges, and tunnels. So we have 2 roads that we bring in, one for accessing to a hotel, and the other one is to access a new park that I'm developing. For those that may have known the old data set, we had this whitewater rafting park in this particular area. And it was a little bit goofy. So I kind of eliminated that and made it a little bit more realistic. We also introduced some new bridges, as well as tunnels, which was not part of the previous set. So the tunnels is a brand new part of this course. So this is the river that we're bringing in rather than the whitewater rafting course that we had earlier. And we also bring in a new school, the hotel, and a park. So for example, this school, this is also the school that I use in the Navisworks course as well. This is actually the school from the Revit MEP course. So again, I'm tying all our different courses together as much as we can for familiarity's sake. This is the hotel from our Revit architectural course, and I introduced that into InfraWorks just to demonstrate that InfraWorks is really a great tool, even for architects and land planners to use, to show how their proposed buildings will impact their surroundings, where we can do sun studies, shadow studies. And if you look close at this particular image, you'll see the white dot just kind of between the church and the hotel. That white dot is actually the sun, and you can see how the sun is setting by the shadows. We have this kind of orangey reflection of the surfaces as the sun is setting. And then finally, I introduce a park at the end of the that new road. And we have a lot of fun here with these city furniture, where we have these wind turbines. We put in some trees and some a little coffee shop and some people milling about. We have a lot of fun. This is all in Chapter 7. And for Chapter 9, we do we produce this particular video here. Now, I'm not sure if this video is coming through WebEx, through my machine. We're really taxing the system here.
It is. It looks good.
Okay. And what you see here is this is all the city furniture that are stock items within InfraWorks. InfraWorks is a fun product. And at the end, I put in Morris Beach Park. Nice to see my name in name here. So this is we learn how to create one of these videos as well. So let's jump over to InfraWorks right now. And I'll start demonstrating what this is all about. So this is the start screen. And again, very similar to the Civil 3D and the Revit start screens, where we have a history of the models that we previously opened. Any one of these models, I can delete the model if I no longer need it, or I can duplicate the model, or I can remove it from recent so it no longer shows up here. I can open models from my local or from my local area network or my C drive, or I can jump over to BIM 360 and open models from BIM 360. And I can also jump into my model builder to create new models from scratch. So this is getting into InfraWorks, so a little bit of a tour for those that don't know InfraWorks. And as I said, I'll also talk a little bit more about the data set that I've created. We have a variety of bookmarks, which are basically saved views. Now, this is my master proposal. InfraWorks loves working with these different proposals, and they are basically just as they sound. I can turn different proposals on and off. So I'm going to click over. This was my master proposal that came directly from the model builder. And if I switch over to my completed model, then it's going to add in all the components that we have generated throughout the course. So here we see our ASCENT School of Knowledge, which is our Revit MEP that we've used in the Revit MEP class. And it's also the course, the data set for our Navisworks course. Over here, you see the hotel. And so I can jump over to another bookmark here. Hotel 3D. And this is the screenshot I had earlier with the little sun here and that. And I can navigate it around quite easily. So if I go to my display, now I can set my time of day and the day of the year, the day of the year and the time of day. And as I slide that back and forth, you can see the sun moving up and down, which is kind of cool. But what's also very important is you see how the shadows move about of the hotel. So we can actually demonstrate for this particular day, for this particular month, day and this particular time, how the shadows are going to affect the environment and their neighbors. So, and this over here is my, oops, sorry. Let's jump over to another bookmark. So these wind turbines, we have a variety of, we have some symbols, some city furniture that are animated, and this is one example of animated city furniture. And all of these components that we see here has been created directly with InfraWorks, except for those two Revit buildings. So it's an interesting, exciting product. There is a nice workflow going from laying your roads out in InfraWorks, then exporting them, porting them into Civil 3D, doing your detailed design in Civil 3D, not only for the roads, but for the drainage as well, storm drainage. And once the detailed design is done in Civil 3D, we can then bring that Civil 3D model back into InfraWorks for final visualization and presentation purposes. So let me just jump back over to So what we did is we basically looked at the changes from our previous 2020 courses, why we combined the two courses into one, into the InfraWorks 2021 Fundamentals course. We looked at the order of the chapters that are based on workflow. And finally, we looked at the data set and the change that we made within.